time to strap in and get ready. The leaders in NRL Supercoach are incoming. Bringing you the ultimate insight to help you win your leagues and climb up the rankings. You're now listening to the Insight NRL Show with your hosts, Brain, Metrics, and Whisperer.
Hey everybody, welcome back. You're watching another Insight NRL show. We may be the leaders in Supercoach, but we're certainly not the leaders in what we're about to talk about. But we're getting closer, and it is the Supercoach Whisperers team. Josh, how are you feeling about your team? How much time have you put into your team so far?
Not a whole lot, surprisingly. I think I've done like 3 drafts, which for the game being out for a day, I think that's okay numbers.
Still
that's
degenerate behavior. That's good.
No, that's less than what I reckon. If you ask people, hey, how many times do you think Whisperers changed his fantasy team? They would have said more than 3. So I think 3 is respectable.
Fair call. Matrix, what do you think we're going to see here from Josh's team?
Oh, 1 Tiger, lots of stats-based content, but 0 vibes.
Oh, 0 vibes. That's offensive a little bit, surely.
Yeah. I might need to increase them. Oh, I've got a pretty vibey player. I got a pretty vibey Tiger, so I cover both bases.
So you reckon he's only going to have Terrell May, and that's it? Is that?
No, and Jack Bird. Sorry, 2. Yeah.
Okay. Fair call. Cool. All right. Well, I reckon we're going to see another one because I've seen your team. It's going to be fun. Let's get this one up on the screen, shall we? Kick things off for us, Josh.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on guys that have been discussed at length on this podcast, but Aaron Clark, we've already said about the stats of him playing over 40 minutes at lock. With the departure of Tohu Harris, his stocks have absolutely skyrocketed. Terrell May, another one that we've spoken about at length, set and forget, should be 100% owned across both formats. And Tom Gilbert as well, we've discussed him looking to play through the middle for the Dolphins could be, revelation. Hopefully for him, it's just straight running, no lateral movements, that ACL is not put under too much damage, but looks like a really good price. Looks like he's been underpriced, which is fantastic. But boys, let's chat about the man in the middle. Isaiah Yeo, 865K, a lot of money. Tied for the best player in the game last year. No Payne Haas. Looks like he's had a bit of ankle surgery today. What do we think about pairing Isaiah Yeo with Terrell May? Averaging 64 last year. No Jerome Luai. Probably even more ball playing for him to the middle, and Ivan Cleary might need to depend on him just as much this year.
Love it. Absolutely love it. He's one of the first players I picked, and then I purely had to move him out because I couldn't afford anything decent at all. My bench looked fucking bare bones. It was awful. So he had to go. But if I could get Isaiah Yeo in fantasy and Dream Team and all these fantasy scoring formats, he is the best player in the game in this format. So yeah, absolute lock. If you can spend up and find the cheapies elsewhere. It's
going to be hard for me to move off, Captain Cleary, Vice Captain Yeo. It's just, if one goes shit, the other one will probably go well. Matty, obviously, Isaiah Yeo, Terrell May, and Tom Gilbert. It's a pretty nice looking front 3.
Oh, it's fantastic. Obviously, you're going to need to make some sacrifices elsewhere. But like we keep saying, like the middles are your guns when it comes to fantasy. And you've stuck true. And you've got some absolute guns in there in the middle. And he's the best player in fantasy, regardless of the whole kick meters thing. Because just Cleary can be a bit more up and down. I just think Yeo is so consistent. So
yeah, and thank you for stalling for a little bit of time so I could pull up some stats. I didn't have them prepared, but we're looking at 160 run meters. We're looking at 37 tackles at a very, very good efficiency. 1 offload and hardly any negatives in his game, which is crucial for fantasy. It's not just the work rate that he gets through it, but it's also the fact that his score isn't being affected by negatives, which we know absolutely kill us. Mitch Barnett, middle edge, which is great. We spoke about depth at length on this podcast, about having flexibility, especially during the buys and with fantasy having less players at your disposal than something like a super coach. So having Mitch Barnett there, his numbers are great. But Kelma Tuilagi, boys, this one could be probably the first one of a little bit contention. We see their price at a 30. But if we filter here by over 70 minutes and we can filter by 2023 to 2024 when he was playing his best footy at Parramatta, that average jumps up to 45.2. We saw him at the back end of the season, even the middle parts during Origin, rounds 12, 13, 14, 15, had a really nice spell there and then finished the season quite well. 49.2, priced at a 30, 15 points of value, Brain. I know you're keen on him, Supercoach. What about fantasy?
Yeah, very keen in both platforms. I bought him in Supercoach last year in round 13 for the major buy, and I was pretty happy with it. Obviously, he's scored a meat pie there in round 14, and from a fantasy perspective, scored 47, 145 meters a gain per game, 25 tackles per game. Like, just the numbers have gone through the roof for him, especially from what we saw from him at the start of the season. And for me, it just looked like they were leaning into him. Now, the question mark becomes, does Jason Riles do the same thing? Because obviously it was Brad Arthur through the middle of the year, and then Jason Riles at the end, he played around 25 and 27, where he played 80 meters on the left edge and scored 45 and 50 in 80 minutes. So, look, there is hope there that Jason Riles maybe goes in that direction with Kelmer, who's a bit younger. Sean Lane and Ryan Madison have had their time on that edge, and it seems like maybe they're leaning away from them as more middle forwards off the bench rather than those edge pieces. So, yeah, look, if we see that he's been named on an edge, I think we can be pretty comfortable that he'll play the majority minutes there.
Yeah, and good friend of the show, the Cumberland Throw, obviously lives and breathes the Parramatta Eels and has pretty much at every one of their trainings. And his daily write-ups have been pretty consistent with the fact that it's been Kamatuolagi in that A side, and there's been a bit of rotation around the other back row, whether it be Cardi, Matto, or Sean Lane. So it seems like there's one constant variable, and it looks like Kamatuolagi on the edge. So if he is playing upwards of 70 plus, I really do like him for just 420k. Moving to the halves, it's the exact same pairing as you, Braino. It's Munster and Clear. We've gone into the stats on both those guys. Don't need to go too much, but if Munster can get back to even somewhat of his 2023 best with a big kick meters and overall production, I think he could be really good. And the key part for him as well is having that depth on the bench to cover that round 2 bye. Before you spoke about buying Kamatuolagi in the buys for Supercoach, we didn't actually talk about fantasy, and there's actually been some new rules this year, boys. In previous years, the minor buys have always been you got to find 17 to play, and the major buys have always been best 13. But this year, for those minor buys where the teams only have 2 or 3 off, the ones before and after Origin, it looks like it's just best 13 for that entire way through as well. So something to keep in mind when building your squads for your Origin periods as well. If you're picking a gun that has a minor buy, you don't need to be too worried about them being out, because it's just your top scoring 13 from now moving forward. But Cleary Munster, I know I'm not going to get any objections from you, Braino, but what about you, Matrix? Are you backing in Cam Munster to get back to the form that we saw in 2023?
Yeah, look, I'd love to see it. I'm just not 100% convinced just yet. But yeah, you could wait and see. I see you've named another half again on the bench. That was the one that I was high on, because I think that he'll do a lot of kicking in play, whereas I don't think Munster will do it. But hey, whereas I don't think there's 10 points of value in Munster, there can't be 10 points of value in everybody. And I think he's just going to get some, points on the board early on. And yeah, you can maybe run with the trends a bit later on.
Yeah, of course. There's going to be some other halfbacks that pop up at the back end of the season. Guys like Mitch Moses, once we get a better, clear idea of what his role is going to be. DCE always has those pockets of 4 to 6 weeks where he turns into the greatest player of all time. So if Munster can sit there and plod along until we get an idea of what's happening, then that would be absolutely fantastic.
Sorry, I'll just jump in, Josh, very quickly. With Munster's kick meters, we talked about that a fair bit on my team reveal. And that's a lot of the relevance in terms of we're hoping that comes back to where it was in previous years, right? And we're looking back at Jerome Hughes' kick meters. In 2022, he averaged 255 kick meters per game per game in that year. In 2023, 278. And then there was a big bump in 2024 where he averaged 350 kick meters per game, clearly off the back of the fact that Munster wasn't doing any kicking in play. So there's every chance there that's aligning pretty perfectly, really, with Munster to take some kicking back, pending how that groin's going. We know it was a pretty hampering injury last year, Josh. It was one of those things where he pretty much just put the kicking boot away completely.
Yeah, and no disrespect to Tyrant Wishart. He played his role fantastically last year, but I don't think Craig Bellamy was going into film study and saying, all right, we're going to pin the attack onto Tyrant Wishart. So I think Jerome Hughes had to take a big share of that workload, and obviously it paid off for him winning the Dally M. But I think with Munster back, you can split that workload and split that just split that 50-50 and just try and keep defenses guessing, because if you see that, Hughes is lining up on the ruck on the fifth tackle, you know exactly where the ball's going. But if you do split them with Munster and Hughes, it's going to create a bit more headaches for defenses. So, hopefully we see Munster back to his best. The beauty of fantasy, boys, is the scoring is black and white. It's run meters, it's offloads, it's, try assists are very, very, blanket across the board. And that makes scoring so easy. The beauty of NRL fantasy, boys, is New South Wales Cup fantasy stats are actually readily available. And we look at our boy Robert Toyer, who is in my centres right now.
He's looking lean there in that photo.
He's looking like for anyone that follows a bit of WWE, Vacant. Great wrestler. He looks exactly like him right there. But we see Toyer last year, 12 games.
The one you haven't paid for, the DLC you haven't paid for.
Yeah, four games in his career, 6 tries. But last year, 6 tries in 4 games, 1 try assist. 3 line breaks in 6 games, 42 tackle busts.
That's big.
Good tackle efficiency as well, boys, which is a huge thing for fantasy. As we know, missed tackles are very, very heavily penalised. So 77-9, good little ratio there. Averaging 151 metres a game. But most importantly, boys, 49.8 fantasy points for Robert Toyer. Do we expect that in first grade? Of course not. But it's a very, very good look when you're picking a basement price edge, isn't it?
Just matrix, it comes down to work rate, doesn't it? You're looking for these centers and these wingers and these young guys, rookies coming into teams to have decent work rate, and it looks like he's got that, doesn't it?
Yeah, he's just a rookie coming into a decent team too. Again, losing a lot of guys. Robert Toyer is going to get an excellent run, and I suppose going cheap here and quite cheap on the bench too allows you to get your blokes like Isaiah Yeo and everything like that. And that's probably where I like the Robert Toyer pick in your starting lineup. It allows you to get, Isaiah Yeo. So yeah, look, that's probably more where I'd probably running my bottom dollar guys on the bench, but yeah, there's no reason he can't average 35 through the first 6 rounds. So
yeah, if I got 33, 35 out of him, I'd be over the moon, because we're paying 230K for him in a position that historically isn't a great scoring output. We look at guys like Jesse Ramian and Herbie Farnsworth being the sort of top echelon for those guys. If I search someone like Herbie averaging 55 compared to guys like Isaiah Yeo, who was putting up mid 60s, if we can get mid 30s for Toyer, then I think it's a great at 230 and could definitely be starting. And I wouldn't be upset on a Monday morning opening my team and seeing that my bottom dollar center has put up mid 30s.
Yeah, 100%.
Moving to the back, wing fullback. It's a very, very different strategy from my Supercoach team reveal, isn't it, boys? Where we've gone 3 absolute primos. We just do have the one spearhead in the defense here, and it is Tom Trbojevic, priced at a 50. We look at games in his career at fullback over 70 minutes, because he did start off his career playing on the wing. Through his career, boys, averaging 51.9. So let's call that 52 across his career. Fantastic. We've said it a million times before. 5 games of the first 7 at 4 Pines Park gives us a chance to see some of these other fullbacks and how they develop. What does Scott Drinkwater's role look like? How does Dylan Edwards go off the back of his surgery in the offseason? How's KP going to gel with some of his new halves partners? How does Latrell bounce after his first 2 fantastic games running into a harder run? If I can get nearly 2 months out of Turbo putting up 52 points at a worse, I really, really like it. And like I said, career average has shown us that he averages more than what he's priced at. That does take into account that ridiculous 2021 season where I think some records were set. If we 2021 averaging 83.0, so obviously massive outlier season, it's still bumped up that average. I think he could definitely match what he's priced at, and that's what I'm asking for from my gun wing fullback.
Yeah, I love the pick. Like, honestly, we talk about how exciting he is playing at 4 Pines Park, and obviously those stats are going to translate as well in this. So, yeah, look, Tom Trbojevic, 700K, wheels up. Great.
Averaged 1 try game, Brain, 1.1 try assist, 0.9 0.9 try assists, 1.1 try assists, 0.9 line breaks, 1.2 line break assists. Definitely gets in and around it as well. 200 run meters is huge for him. That's the main thing. Tackle bust as well for him galore.
For me, it's those kind of stats produce such a better scoring output in the Supercoach platform than they do in fantasy. Obviously, we spoke earlier on my episode, my team reveal, about the scoring system and how that all works. And, scoring a try is less than half the amount of points, and scoring a line break is less than half the amount of points in fantasy. So you're rewarded by these tackle meters. The 190 meters per game for Tom Trbojevic is huge. Obviously, doesn't really do much else from that perspective, but we're looking at, he does have 2 errors in him a game, and we know that because he's so involved in the attack, there are the errors that are going to come. The defenses are going to jam up on him. For me, I don't know what it is, but I just got really burnt by him last year because I bought him at the wrong time. I think I bought him. I reckon it would have been round 8 against the Eels, and he's gone 27, 50, 40, 40. So he does have a low game. For a guy that costs 700K, he does score at least a couple of 30s and a couple of 20s every now and again. So maybe I've just owned him at the wrong time. Maybe it's a bias.
Yeah, of course. And it's not, he's definitely not locked into the side at all. If we filter by guys in a similar price point, got guys like Karaz, Brian Toto, Drinkwater, as we've said as well, Reece Walsh. So he's definitely not locked into that. But 700K, it does allow me to pivot off moving there. So, yeah, obviously a guy like Trell could come into considerations. I'm not sure if we can see because Brain's head. But there is 117K in the bank as well. So still a fair bit of coin to move around.
Don't be a coward, guys. Braino, say you fucking hate it. Whisperer, tell him to eat a bag of dicks.
I don't hate it. I'm Switzerland here with Tom Trbojevic because I know that whatever I say, he's going to fucking destroy me. So, yeah, if I say he's shit, he's going to go really well.
But, yeah, I mean, I can afford anyone. I can afford Trell very, very thankfully if we do, opt to go that way.
Wheels up, Trell.
What was that? Sorry?
Wheels up for Trell.
Trust me, you don't need to convince me for wheels up for Trell.
I do like that we all picked a gun fullback and it was all somebody different, which probably just tells me that, the gun fullback, while still viable in fantasy, is wide open, really, whether it be a Turbo, whether it be a Dylan Edwards, whether it be a Latrell, whether you're feeling really spicy and you do want to chase some points in like a Walsh or a Ponga, but when we look at this, there's probably not the safety in a Walsh or a Ponga in fantasy that there is in other formats, is there, fellas?
Yeah,
there's not really safety in any of the pure fullbacks. Your safety comes from guys like Toto and Karaz. So I think it definitely offers a good talking point, Braino, because in Supercoach, it feels like it's the same 5 fullbacks that we throw around.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, look, you're looking at 2. You're looking at Kalen Ponga and you're looking at Latrell Mitchell because they goal kick. Like, I feel like that's the safety when you're in fantasy platform. Like, you're looking at those 2 guys because they goal kick and they get that extra little bit of base. They get that boost. But I don't know about you guys, but my gun fullback's Isaiah Yongi because I've been super high on that guy like the whole off season so far. Like, you wouldn't see me say anything bad about that guy. He's a jet. So I don't know what you guys are talking about.
You're a hater.
We'll touch on that, but you do talk about goals in fantasy, and it's a bit of a coward's game. It doesn't punish the goal kickers, so it's 2 points for one that you put through the posts, and nothing if you miss. In Supercoach, we have the -2.
Mm-hmm.
Cats, absolute cats. Isaiah Yongi, as we've said, I should have pulled his New South Wales stats up, New South Wales Cup stats up, but from all reports, work rate beast, which is going to translate well to fantasy, and it shows you the differences in the game and how you do have to sort of pivot a little bit if you are playing both formats and can't just be locked into one strategy across both. And the other one is Ty Munro, boys. 300K. That's Tom Trbojevic. That's Jerome Luai. We'll touch on him. That's Lachlan Galvin. Have I not saved Ty Munro? I don't think I have. But I think... Oh, you got him up for me. Amazing. I think from games over 70 minutes on the wing last year, included one score of a mid-20s. I still think he's quite... still think he's quite underpriced, Brano.
I think so. Yeah. Sorry, I wasn't the one that got the fucking stats for you. That's
sorry. I thought you had it up. My fault. I'm just throwing to it. Nope. I'm trying to throw to no one. Oh, here we go. Look at that. Price at 21. Oh, you've got it up there. Price at 21. Games over 70 minutes on the wing, 32.5. As we were talking about with Toya, if I can get mid-30s out of these, lower price guys, fantastic. We've spoken about that draw, and that price, those scores there include games against the Roosters, Penrith, and the Bulldogs as well. 3 pretty good defensive sides, and the Warriors in 2023, who, correct me if I'm wrong, were also quite good defensively. With Alex Johnson looking like he's racing the clock for round 1, potentially out for up to a month. If he's playing on that left-hand side against, I believe it's the Tigers and the Dolphins in the first 2 rounds, or the Dolphins and some other bottom-feeding club. Yeah, he could score a couple of nice 45s, and we can move off him after he's made a 150K.
Love it.
Two things, Josh, as we bring up your screen, you spray me every time you see me have something in light mode, so I am severely disappointed in you for having your favorite footystatistics.com up in light mode. And also, would you say that you're Isaiah Ione now because you own him?
I like that. See, we've recorded 3 episodes tonight, 2 dad jokes. We're still waiting for for Brian. So hopefully he can come up with something in the next 8 players I've got to name. But Ty Munro, boys, averaging mid-30s on the wing against a couple of tough defensive sides. If he's playing in that left for the first 2 rounds against a really, really nice matchup, then hopefully, wheels up for a bit of Ty Munro. Pete Mamazelis. That's not him. That's not him. That's him. Pete Mamazelis. In his New South Wales Cup career, boys, 45 appearances, 16 tries. Fantastic. Last year, we're looking at 94.5% tackle efficiency. So the man doesn't miss, which is great. These are gerbo numbers, so no demerits coming from him in that stance. Averaging 54 run meters a game for a hooker, that's quite nice, getting that nice little 5-point boost there. But another one, 48.8 average for Pete Mamazelis. Obviously, don't have to talk about him too much. We've chatted about him over 50 minutes. I think that's definitely reasonable, even with Humphries on the bench. Matrix, did you own Mamazelis?
Not in fantasy. I do in Supercoach. It was just the fact that I was getting in Jeremy Marshall-King. And again, it might have been one of those. I really liked Braino's takes of having JMK in Supercoach, and he was somebody that I'd hoped I could have. But I sort of went double cheapie, and I had Aaron Clark there on the bench. Probably somebody that I could nearly get as a cash cow, but just had to shuffle some things around for bottom dollar. So he just missed out on mine. But yeah, I do really like Pete Mamazelis. I wish he was 250K, but playing those couple of games last year, again, probably gives you a bit of backing too that he can perform on top level. But yeah, you just have to pay that little bit extra, that 80K. So.
Yeah, I think it's important, Brian, that I carry a hooker as well, with having Clark as mid eligible as well. If I ever have to slide him down for any reason, having a hooker on the bench covers quite nicely. And you'll see by my bench setup, we've got a hooker, we've got an edge center, we've got some middles, we've got halves. I'm actually not carrying a wing fullback on the bench, but if we do get one, mark my words, he'll definitely be in.
Yeah, the depth on the bench is pretty important, isn't it? Because you don't have a squad that's as deep numbers wise in Supercoach. You've got 26 players now with the flex, and in fantasy, obviously, you've only got 21.
21.
So yeah, we have a lot less depth. We have 5 less players to rely on when you're in fantasy. So and I know that we get caught off guard, especially in the major buy rounds now with the when you're trying to find 17 on a mini buyer. Thankfully, they've changed the rules and it makes it a little bit easier now to have the 13. Remember, boys, when you had to find a full squad on buy rounds, just normal buys, major buys?
Grim.
That was fun.
The good thing about fantasy is, though, and we haven't discussed this either, is you can't burn all your trades. They will give you, I think they give you a cap until round 8 or round 9. Fantasy experts let us know in the chat. But you get capped. I think there's only 2 trades a week up until round 10. And you can make 3 trades up until round 20. And I think it's 4 trades for the rest of the season. But I'm not confident on that. That's where our fantasy knowledge does lack us a little bit. But fill us in the comments below. But Jack Bird, we've discussed him.
I love your backing there with not having a wing fullback, because Turbo and Ty Munro are so durable. They've never been injured before. So look, I'm not being critical. I'm actually just I'm actually proud of you. You're brave.
I'm praying that a certain Raiders man gets a duel, because I'm gonna need it. But we have Jack Bird here as interchange too. Stats for him are unreal. If he's playing lock, then fantastic. Otherwise, we can pivot to a few others. But that duel's really nice. Naf White, we've touched on him as well in Brain's podcast. Another guy that's got a big upside playing lock and does have a really handy duel with middle and edge. But boys, I don't know about you, but you have to work tomorrow, and this man doesn't. Bit of Jerome Luai, and nothing I love more than delving into a bit of kick meter stats. I know that's Matrix's favorite thing to do on a Friday night. We saw Jerome Luai at halfback last year for the Panthers average 267 kick meters. We move over to one Lockie Galvin, who averaged 167.6 last year at kick meters. Then we pull up the big dog himself, Nathan Cleary, who did a lion's share of the kicking. If I filter Jerome Luai to 5/8, we can see that just even throughout his career, that kick, it drops to 91. So obviously gets a big boost in kick meters when playing halfback when no Cleary was in the side. Lockie Galvin showed us that he's not a huge kicker of the ball. And we look at the big dog here, Nathan Cleary, when he was doing a lion's share of the kicking for the Panthers, just to give you an idea of sort of what kick meters could be up for grabs. 380 kick meters. So we're looking at Galvin kicking for potentially, if Galvin's kicking for 170, Now there's 210 on the cards for Luai, which is at least 210.
10.
And you'd
Yeah.
think with his pedigree that Benji might even take it out of his hands, because we had some stinkers at halfback last year for the Tigers, and we saw him at halfback, Brain, 50.6, price of 42.
Absolute lock. Like, the only reason I didn't have him is because I couldn't fit him in price-wise. Otherwise, if I needed another, like a decent halfback on the bench, I would have picked him. I just had Munster and Cleary there. You've got a bit of a different structure to me. But yeah, I mean, the kick meters are a no-brainer. Obviously, the guy also breaks tackles for fun. You know, he averages 4 tackle breaks a game when he plays at halfback.
Loves a pointless sidestep run.
100%. And that's what we look for in fantasy. We look for those John Bateman, run sideways, palm off 6 blokes kind of plays. And
The James
that is
Tedesco special.
Yeah, it's absolute fantasy gold. So, you know, Jerome Luai has gone to the James Tedesco school of tackle breaks, and he will absolutely not let you down on that in that statistic.
If the next man on my team does look to perform well, then you know, obviously the need for Luai is not there. If Sandon Smith, you know, you can see here as my emergency 5. If he is performing well and getting good kick meters, then he could fill that void of Luai as my half cover. I'm just worried about Chad Townsend, but at 250k, it's pretty hard to pass up on him, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I do just think that you have him regardless of if you've got him in your scoring anyway. Just have him in emergency, let him marinate. Should get 10 weeks in there in first grade at least, till Sam Walker's back. And then honestly, might play for longer if Chad Townsend is playing the way that he played down the back end of his Cowboys career as well. There's a half spot up for grabs. If he grabs it by the balls, he could be there all year. He might be your 500k player to get you up to, you know, another gun later on in the year. So,
yeah, that's the hope, Brano. We get 10 weeks out of him, plenty of time to get price rises, but that kick meter split will be huge for Sandon Smith, because that will determine whether he makes 150k or he makes, you know, 250, 300.
That's it. Coward's game. Take the goal kicks as well. He should goal kick too. So, yeah, add that on.
Fantastic. Let's move into Savelio Tamale. His career for the, what are they called? Dragons in New South Wales Cup. Fantastic. 36 appearances, 20 tries. Last year, played the full season, scoring a try in every second game, 4 try assists as well. Nearly 200 tackle breaks, 23 line breaks in 24 games, boys. This is the concern. He is of the Greg Marzu school of defense, doesn't have the greatest, you know, tackling percentage, but what's that? 94 tackles in 24 games. So we're looking at, what's that? 4 a game?
You look at, it's a volume game, isn't it? Like when you're only making 4 tackles per game or whatever it is, like, yeah, the percentage of tackles missed or the tackle efficiency doesn't really hurt you anywhere near as much as a guy who's tasked to make 15 to 20 tackles per game. So could be a lot worse.
This is quite nice as well, from that Jack Howe school of, you know, exceptional run meters from a center. Obviously going to be playing wing for the Raiders, but available at center if we're, you know, getting these kind of numbers from him, which is fantastic. Average point to 45.5. So bottom dollar. I'm not going to rely on him too much to start the season, but you've seen those numbers, boys. What's most impressive is, you know, 12 tries in 24 games and 23 line breaks and 4 try assists, which are worldy. He was lighting up in New South Wales Cup.
And the good thing is he's well educated. He's been to about 3 or 4 schools, so he'll be ready to go come 2025, I think. He's
been to the 2021 Turbo School of Try Involvements. He's been to the School of Greg Marzu Defense. So, you know, well-versed, a scholar, I guess you could say. And
I would assume that Jarrell Skelton's probably been to the Greg Marzu School of Defense. So they probably know each other. It'll be interesting to see how they match up together.
Jesus Christ. We move into Jackson Purdue now, where he is looking quite nice. Has only played the 8 games last year, 6 tries, 4 forced dropouts. A lot of his games were at halfback, but what's impressive is the tackle efficiency. So even at centre, I'm not too worried about him being put under fire with a 91% tackle completion. 90 run meters, boys, at halfback is quite nice. You would expect that to go up at centre. And obviously, yeah, the scoring is a little bit skewed because he's going to get some kick meters and stuff like that. But what most impresses me is he likes to get involved, 90 run meters from halfback, good tackle efficiency as well. Obviously can ball play a little bit on that edge there. We saw Zach Labart have success playing in that role earlier to start the season for Todd Payton. And yeah, I mean, it's a no-brainer, isn't it, Matrix, at 250K?
Yeah, I think any guy named at 250K outside of, I suppose, some of those front row forwards that we didn't quite get last year is a no-brainer. But yeah, look, honestly, just Purdue in the side is great, but somebody's got to play, Val Holmes' spot. I'm not saying that he's going to be Val Holmes or anything like that, but I just think him being out there. Cowboys are like an incredibly high-scoring team, especially when it comes to Supercoach, but they do have to spend a lot of time defending because they do drop the ball a little bit too in attack, trying to score those points and chasing those points. So, yeah, I just think anybody from the Cowboys 250K that gets named, like not named Thomas McHaley, should be fine.
No, even no Thomas McKelly slander on this podcast. But you do talk about a Thomas playing front row forward who has spending some time in England. We moved Tom Amone, 250K from the Dogs. Obviously, last on my bench. Don't want to spend a huge amount of time on it, but we do look at his Supercoach. Obviously, this is the Supercoach score price, but we look at some of these stats, boys. 32 tackles a game, 18 hit ups for 132 meters. Straight away, that's Jesus. 45 points. Obviously, it's not going to, translate to NRL. I don't think he's going to be playing massive minutes, but the work rate's there. Team of the season last year has come back. Phil Gould teams are rating quite highly. 25, 30 minutes, boys. I reckon he could do a job.
It's the Phil Gould tick of approval that I want every single year. We went with, who was it? Preston, 2 years ago.
Oh.
Then it was Sam Hughes, front row forward 2, Sam Hughes. And now it's going to be Tom Amone. What do you reckon, Matrix?
To be fair, you got a good track record with the Gus tick of approval. Those two guys performed pretty well.
It's pretty solid.
Oh, was Preston Rookie of the Year that year too? He's somebody that I'm really targeting for draft this year. But yeah, look, Amone, I'm excited about him. I think he could be really good. So yeah, again, just being on the field, 250K looks like he's going to get his opportunity this year.
People have compared him to Poesa Famasuli. I think that's very disrespectful to Tom.
The pasta sauce is going to be way better than that, I reckon.
I think comparing him to Poesa Famasuli is shocking.
Yeah, the ultimate.
I would compare him more to probably Luke Thompson, who didn't set the world on fire, but was very serviceable.
Yep.
Yeah,
I'd agree with that.
But
so Poasa Famasuli, obviously. So are we expecting Tom Amone to play maybe 4 games all year and then be a DNP and sit in your front row forward 4 for like the whole season?
No, what I expect is in round 1 for him to get named on the bench, an hour before kickoff, get promoted to the starting side. Everyone pivots and starts with him, and then gets a HIA first hit up of the game. Do we remember that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Mate. Awful times.
Yeah,
it's rough out there sometimes, but that's my squad. Look, I'm okay with it for now, and then hopefully we get to a couple of these cheapies. I've got 117K in the bank. Some guys we didn't mention, Keon, I'm really really keen on. Jacob Preston as well, a guy that just chews through work. Hopefully we can try and squeeze him in, but I'm quite happy with Yo, Barnett, Cleary, and Turbo are sort of those linchpins as the guns to fall on. And Terrell May, obviously.
Yeah, no-brainers. Very good picks there. And obviously we've got a lot to come and a lot to change throughout the preseason as we get more news coming over the next, 35 days until the season starts. So, guys, let us know what you think of Josh's team and all of our teams throughout the preseason and throughout our team reveals. Obviously, we're super coach people. We're not going to pretend to be, in-depth experts when it comes to fantasy, but we are going to give it a red-hot crack. We've all had decent finishes, so we'll see how we go this year. And obviously stay tuned for our NRL. I don't know what we're going to call it yet. We're going to call it the Olympics. We're going to call it a quaddie. It's basically 4 different NRL fantasy competitions molded into one, and we're going to put the rankings together and see how you go. So if you're interested in that, either jump in our Discord or just hit us up on DMs and we'll direct you in the right direction. But that'll do us for now, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Catch you later.
Cheers.